Back in 1981, a tiny North Dakota town, a newborn baby girl was found murdered. She had no name, her killer was a ghost, and the case went cold almost immediately. Just another forgotten tragedy. But for the next 45 years, her killer wasn't on the run or hiding in the shadows. She was hiding in plain sight, building a life, raising a family, and dedicating her career to helping the most vulnerable children, all while carrying a monstrous secret. This is how decades of silence were finally shattered by science, unmasking a mother who was also a monster, and forcing a reckoning that was nearly half a century in the making. On the morning of April 16th, 1981, a maintenance worker on the campus of Valley City State College in North Dakota made a horrific discovery. Tucked away in a quiet wooded area, he found the body of a newborn baby girl. Her umbilical cord was still attached, and a plastic covering had been deliberately placed over her face. When investigators arrived, the weight of the discovery settled over the small community. An autopsy soon confirmed their worst fears. The baby had been born alive, and her cause of death was suffocation. This wasn't a tragic medical event, it was a homicide. The investigation began with practically nothing to go on. Who was this child? And who could have done this? In 1981, forensic science was a different world. With no DNA databases, no usable fingerprints, no suspect, the case was an uphill battle from day one. Police interviewed students and faculty, chasing down whispers and rumors, but every lead went nowhere. The baby's mother and prime suspect was a complete mystery. Feeling a sense of duty and sorrow for the unnamed victim, the local police department gave her a name, Rebecca. They wanted her to be more than just a case file. They gave her an identity in death that she was denied in life. Before she was laid to rest, the community mourned for a baby Rebecca, a child they never knew but had adopted as their own. But as years turned into decades, her case file gathered dust. The leads dried up, and the truth of what happened to baby Rebecca seemed like it would be lost to time forever. While baby Rebecca's case file lay dormant, her killer wasn't living a life of torment. Instead, she was building a new one over the foundation of her dark secret. Her name was Nancy Jean Trotter. At the time of the murder, she was a young student at Valley City State College, the very campus where the baby was found. She was dating a fellow student who would later become her husband. After 1981, Nancy's life didn't spiral. It did the exact opposite. She and her college boyfriend, the man who was baby Rebecca's biological father, got married. They stayed together, built a family, and had 4 more children. They created a perfect picture of a normal, stable American family. Just a year later, Nancy began a career that would become her public identity. For 41 years, she worked as a teacher at the North Dakota School for the Deaf, dedicating her professional life to educating and caring for children who required immense patience and trust. She was a respected educator, a pillar of her community, and seen by all as a deeply caring professional. This is a chilling paradox of the story. A woman accused of killing her own newborn spent the next 4 decades nurturing other people's children. Was it some kind of penance? Or was it the ultimate deception, a mask of compassion to hide the monster beneath? For over 40 years it worked, and she had no criminal history, no red flags, nothing to suggest the secret she carried. In 2024, after a long and respected career, Nancy Trotter retired. She and her husband moved to the sunny retirement community of Sun Lakes, Arizona. It was supposed to be a peaceful end to life well lived. It seemed the secret would finally die with her. But science had other plans. In 2019, nearly 4 decades after the murder, a new generation of investigators at the Valley City Police Department decided to give their coldest case another look. Forensic technology had made leaps that would have seemed like science fiction in 1981. Hoping for a breakthrough, they decided to exhume baby Rebecca's remains. From those little tiny bones, they collected a DNA sample. Microscopic ghost of a child forgotten for so long. That DNA was the key. Investigators sent it to labs specializing in a revolutionary technique, genetic genealogy. This process uses public ancestry databases to build a family tree for an unknown person, tracing distant relatives until they land on a single family and eventually a single name. In 2020, they got a hit. The lab identified possible relatives of baby Rebecca's parents. Investigators began the painstaking work of piecing together a 40-year-old family puzzle. Their work eventually led them to Nancy Jean Trotter. In October of 2021, two investigators knocked on her door in Arizona. They explained they were looking into a cold case and that genetic genealogy had pointed them in her direction. Nancy's composure held for over 40 years, shattered. She became visibly emotional. She didn't confess, but she didn't deny it either, giving them haunting, ambiguous answers. Maybe it was me, she said. It could be. Maybe it was me. She admitted she was a student at the college and was with her boyfriend at the time. When they asked for a DNA sample, she consented. But what happened next was even more telling. After the investigators left, Nancy Trotter attempted to take her own life. The weight of that knock on the door of a secret she thought was buried forever had become too much. In June of 2023, the lab results came back and they were conclusive. The report stated that the probability of Nancy Trotter and her husband being the biological parents of baby Rebecca was 3.481 quadrillion times more likely than any two random people. It was a statistical certainty. As if that weren't enough, investigators tested tissue paper that had been collected from the original crime scene. The DNA of that tissue was a match for Nancy Trotter. In 2024, authorities returned to Nancy Trotter's quiet retirement home in Sun Lakes, Arizona. This time, they weren't there to ask questions. They were there with an arrest warrant. The double life she had so carefully built for 45 years came crashing down. The respected teacher and loving mother was charged with Class AA felony murder, the most serious criminal charge in North Dakota. Nancy Jean Trotter was extradited back to the state she had left behind. The 65-year-old woman now sits in the Stutzman County Correctional Center, held on a $750,000 bond. Her preliminary hearing and arraignment were scheduled for May 21st of 2026, which comes up this month. The legal process is just starting, but the 45-year-old mystery of who killed baby Rebecca is finally over. The ghost that haunted Valley City for decades now has a face, and she will finally have to answer for what happened in those woods. This case leaves us with so many questions science can't answer. What role, if any, did her husband, the baby's father, play? He hasn't been charged, but what did he know? And the biggest question of all, can a person be defined by a single monstrous act? Or does a lifetime of good deeds change who they are? Can 41 years of serving children ever atone for the death of one? I'm genuinely interested to hear your thoughts on this. So leave them in the comments below respectfully. And if you believe that justice should have no expiration date, please consider subscribing for more stories of long-awaited reckoning. Thanks to the relentless work of investigators and the power of science, baby Rebecca has finally been given a voice. The long, silent wait is over, and the process of accountability has finally begun.